Hello and welcome to Fire Talk. My name is Greg Byven. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the Keizer Fire District. And today I'll be asking our public education specialist, Anne Marie, some questions about cooking safety. This time of year, people are busy preparing food, feasts, and enjoying themselves with some treasured family time. This can include cooking turkey and hams and all sorts of special treats. But one thing we need to consider is what to do to prevent some cooking fires. So today, Anne Marie's going to discuss that. We're going to ask a few questions and see what we can do to inform you folks about how to be safe in the kitchen.
Sounds good, Greg. So I guess starting off, looking at the fact of with cooking comes microwaves, different ways to heat food, ovens, even just the stovetop in general. And even though it seems something very simple that we do constantly, there seem to be more fires during the months of November and December, just because there's that much more cooking going on in the kitchen due to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and just the various, holiday activities. Everybody wants everybody to come over and enjoy food. So the big thing is, first off, stay in the kitchen when you're cooking. We get busy. We're trying to wrap presents and deal with the kids and help with their homework and try and, get whatever goodies are going. But then we walk out of the kitchen, we leave the food alone, and that's when the big fires occur. Things spill over and burn on the burner. Perhaps whatever's in the oven catches on fire. So that's why we always say the first thing and the most important thing is stay in the kitchen with the food. We understand that you're trying to multitask, but this is the one time it's very important to stay exactly where you're at and try and do one thing.
Okay, so a lot of people these days are making things on different equipment, and I know that I've seen all sorts of slicer dicer type things on TV. It's new equipment that you can purchase, and when you look at this new equipment and it's a really good chance it could save you time in the kitchen, and you're cooking with it, what's important about this stuff? Is it just, can we just go out and buy anything we want, or?
Well, what you want to do is make sure that it's tested by a recognized testing facility. So Underwriters Laboratory is a great example. There's that little UL listing on the bottom. And so that says that it's been through different tests. They make sure that it's safe. Now, not everything is 100% guaranteed, but they still do put it through kind of a routine to make sure that it's not just going to catch on fire sitting on the kitchen counter. The other thing that you want to do is follow the manufacturer's instructions. They might tell us to submerge it in water or not to put it near water. The little details like that can really make a big difference. So pay attention when the manufacturer is telling you. It might be a crock pot that you're not supposed to put in perhaps the dishwasher to clean versus, it is safe to put in there. So like I said, those little things can really make a difference. The other thing is plug it directly into the wall. The further you get from the plug-in, the more likely you are to have a fire. So if you have an extension cord or perhaps even the multi-plug adapters, you're creating more of a problem there. So always make sure that those larger appliances, especially microwaves and that, go directly into the wall plug-in.
Now, I've seen several plugs. Some of them have 2 prongs, some of them have 3 prongs. I know if you go into other countries, they have all different types of shapes and sizes. But the 2-prong, 3-prong. Now, why is that so important? And which would we prefer? Would we prefer the 2 or the 3?
It really depends on what the appliance is. That third plug is actually a ground for the electrical. So you're going to see that in your larger ones or the ones that do need the ground. The standard 2-prong, there's actually one side that's polarized, so you can only put it in one direction. It's all just little safety steps. What you never want to do is try and plug in a 3-prong with the ground into only a 2-prong circuit or just a 2-prong extension cord even. That's where you're going to see your problems at.
Okay. So some people just can't get around using an extension cord. I know there's appliances where they come with these short cords and they expect you to have a countertop right next to your outlet, but it's not always possible. So what do you recommend these guys do? Get down in those areas and make do and make sure that's directly into the wall, or if they have to use an extension cord, what would you recommend?
The big thing is obviously when you're trying to do potlucks, things like that, you've got a lot of different things that you're plugging in. Make sure it's for a very short period of time and it's always being monitored. So if you do have a 3-prong, make sure it's going into a 3-prong extension cord directly into the wall. Or if it's a 2-prong, make sure that, again, it's at least going into a 2 to 3-prong extension cord, again, directly into the wall. What you don't want to do is overload any of the circuits. Again, the more electricity you have going through, the more likely you are to have a problem. So try and keep it as simple as possible. Don't leave it for long periods of time unless you have to. And again, it's just one of those things you need to stay alert when you're cooking.
Sounds good. And it sounds like something that most people do. And I'm sure that they'll be not so many unattended kitchens over the holidays, since that's where most people gather. So many of these things are just simply reminders, but they're
Correct.
good. They're good reminders. So, hey, so I know a person who had a fire in their oven, and they they didn't know what to do, so they opened the oven and flames came roaring out, and so they grabbed their fire extinguisher and pretty much wrecked the whole entire meal. Because I understand that fire extinguisher chemical is not the best flavor.
That is correct. You know, it might look pretty on the, you know, kind of a little snow on the turkey,
Yeah,
but the flavor is definitely not something to be desired.
It was a flocked turkey, that's for sure, but it didn't take.
Unedible.
Yeah, and unedible. So, why don't you talk to us a little bit about fire? You know, what are the components of fire? I mean, there's obviously just some simple things when you're cooking that you can take away from making fire spread and from creating fire. Like I know from our education that fire needs heat. So if you cut the heat, you can often eliminate the fire. What else could you cut out there? I mean, how can people simply put fires out?
You know, the most important part is, especially if you have an oven fire or even a microwave fire, they have to have oxygen. That's what fire needs. It's almost like an animal. You can think of, if you take away the oxygen, it's going to die. So if you have your, you know, beautiful glazed ham and all of a sudden it ignites inside the stove, inside the oven, just leave the oven door shut and turn off the heat, and make sure you do call 911. But by leaving the door shut, it's going to starve of oxygen in that small spot. Also, by turning off the heat, you're again going to be taking away that heat from it. So you're doing two different things. And the reason I always say call 911 is we'd rather come out and just help you get the nasty, overburnt, perhaps charred ham or whatever it is, and make sure there's nothing else going on. So like I said, always call 911 just in case it doesn't go out or it doesn't go out quick enough. But the most important thing is make sure that you don't open the door and that you do turn off the heat to the appliance.
So you have a problem, and you've overheated your food, and your ham is now this charred mess, and you're wondering what to do. So you do these things: you close your oven, and you do call 911. Now I'm sure some of the folks at home are probably thinking, why would I need to do that? I mean, I pretty much have it under control now. But I know that as a firefighter, we have equipment that maybe not everybody knows that we carry on the engines. And so what I'm talking about is the tech. So do you want to discuss how that would help people out?
So what he's talking about, the TIC, is a thermal imaging camera. So just in case perhaps the fire has somehow extended into either the back of the stove, somehow gotten outside of whatever the cooking appliance is, we can actually look to see if there's any more heat or any actual flame going anywhere else. And what that does is, instead of having to rip into walls, we can take a look around and go, nope, there's nothing else, or yes, there is a problem.
You know, sometimes we've had some opportunities where we've tried some delicious turkeys.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
and I know as we go in on emergencies, we see different people's settings and all the different varieties of cooking. I know they cook with, they have special baking recipes, they have special Traeger recipes, barbecue recipes. But one thing I think it's important to talk about is these deep fryers, because you can get those, they're real inexpensive. You can run down to the local store. You can get the deep fryer. They come complete with the kits. You're all set. It's kind of a fun outdoor thing. So tell me about the deep fryers. What should you worry about?
The thing is that, like you said, you get a fantastic turkey if the deep fryer's done right. However, if it's done wrong, you can end up with a lot of other problems. The most important thing to keep in mind with a turkey deep fryer is you're dealing with several gallons of oil. So oil is very flammable if it's done incorrectly. So first off, make sure that your turkey is completely thawed and dried off before you put it in the oil. Also, you want to put your fryer outside. You don't want to put it in the garage. You don't want to put it on a wood deck. You want to put it in a safe location so that if there is a fire, it's not going to spread inside your garage, inside your home, across your wooden deck, anywhere like that. So you want to have a nice, clear, open spot.
Okay. So that I know that oil can spread quickly. I know that we've been to deck fires.
Correct.
I know that cooking inside in general is not a good idea for several reasons. But tell me about why the thawing. You mentioned something about thawing. So I mean, I know that at the fast food restaurants, they take the frozen French fries and they put them right into the oil. Now, why wouldn't I want to do that with the turkey?
Correct. Well, if you think about the size of it, perhaps a 20-pound turkey versus French fries, there's a big size difference there. And a lot of what happens is you take that 20-pound frozen turkey and you drop it in, because most people also don't lower it. They just basically drop it into the scalding oil. Well, the size of the turkey plus the water forces the oil out over the pot. The oil then hits the flame underneath that's warming the oil, and then that basically causes a massive explosion of oil. So from that point, you've got all the oil igniting. It then catches everything in the area on fire. And a lot of the injuries we see during the holiday season is people also getting injured because that oil splashes on them, the flame ignites. So there's a lot of different safety reasons. So not only do you have to worry about your home, you also have to worry about yourself being injured.
So, are you saying that when these folks do this, they should lower the turkey into the pot?
Correct.
And then what kinds of things? I mean, now I'm thinking about maybe wearing some. Do you wear? I mean, should I have a mitt on, or should I have a special safety equipment, or should I put my hazmat suit on, or what should I do exactly?
It is one of those scary things. And again, the most important part is following the manufacturer's instructions. If they tell you to dump it in there, then dump it in there by all means. But it is one of those things, if you slowly lower it in there and it's completely defrosted and you've patted it dry like you want to do even when you put it in the oven, you're really going to reduce your chances. But what you also want to do is make sure there's no kids, no pets, or anybody like that around. So if somebody is going to get injured, it's only going to be one person, not a group of people. And, I hate to say that, but it is one of those things if we want to trying to figure out how to word this the best. You don't want to cause any injury, but on the one of the safety sides of things, you want to make sure that nobody else is going to get injured just in case.
Sure.
The other thing that you also want to do that is a very common problem is so not only do you have to worry about the splash from the frozen turkey, you don't want to overfill. There's actually a line on most turkey fryers that say do not fill beyond this point.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
And so, as you dump it in, part of the reason there's overflow is because you're shoving or dropping this 20-pound turkey in. It's already above where it should be, and then now it's gone even further, so it's going to come over the edge.
Right.
So that can definitely be a dangerous thing. But you do want to use a well-insulated pot holder, something to help lower it in there, because obviously your hand is getting fairly close to boiling oil.
Right.
Or at least to very hot oil. And also you want to use safety goggles, something that's going to protect your eyes, so if there is a problem, at least your eyes and your hands are protected.
So make sure you've got your turkey fryers outside on concrete or something that's non-flammable.
On a flat surface.
Make sure that you have that level, the oil level, just the right amount, that like the recommended, manufacturer's recommended amount. Lower your turkey in slowly. And then whenever you put anything into oil, it always bubbles, even if it has the smallest amount of moisture. So that line is real important. And I would say go below that line, if anything.
You need that room for expansion.
Right. And then keep your kids away, keep your dogs away, and anything else, keep your friends away, and
Exactly.
all that. So, okay, so speaking of that, I've seen a lot of injuries over the years where you have kids that are injured because they're just simply trying to help in the kitchen.
Exactly.
And I know that a lot of times, like, we try to recommend that you turn pot handles in. You don't leave pots on the edge of the stove with the handles out, because that's just something for kids to grab.
Or to knock, or
yeah, it's definitely what they call that, an attractive nuisance and things like that. So anyways, what else do you recommend? What I heard there's other things that you folks are focusing on to try to help kids in the kitchen.
There's, one of the most important things is try and keep children and pets at least 3 feet away. And ultimately, anybody you don't need in the kitchen, try and have them, and everybody does want to help, whether it be adult or child, or pet sometimes too. They always want to get their little furry paws in there. But what you want to do is try and keep at least a 3-foot clear zone in front of your stove. And what that does is it allows a nice clean area for the cook to be able to work and get in and out, and keeps children safe. So if something does knock off, they've got a little bit more distance before they get hit by the object. But the other thing you want to do is if you only are perhaps doing 1 or 2 things, try and use the back burners so it's that much further away. But like you said, one of the very simple things you can do is no matter where it's at on the stove, turn your pot handles so they're not going to get knocked off. So like I said, by placing the pot handles in, by using the back 2 burners, and the most important part of having that 3-foot clearance for pets, for children, then that way if something does spill, they're going to be a lot safer.
I see. And it's not an easy thing to do. I
It's
know
not.
from having kids, and I've got a huge dog, and he doesn't feel comfortable unless he's right there in my way as I turn around. And so it's a tripping hazard. So those are some other things to think about, probably, in
Correct.
addition to trying to keep that 3-foot zone.
And it's not just them that can get hurt, it's also you, because your first reaction is going to be to reach out barehanded or something and get that pod or stop whatever's happening. So it's a good thing for everybody. So whether you have to put your animal in a crate or in another room or even outside for a little while, and like I said, it's one of those things, if you teach your children early, they're going to learn, no, I need, this is my safety zone. We often teach parents to draw a line, whether it be masking tape or something, so that kids know they have to stay outside of that area when the stove's in use.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I don't know if my kids would follow that, but I think it's a good idea to try to establish those boundaries because it's important. So we have a problem now. You've got your kids back, your dog's back, and you've got a fire, and you absolutely cannot put it out by doing something simple like taking the heat away or by smothering it, and you have to use your extinguisher.
Correct.
So what kind of extinguisher should I have? Because I know there's the AB, there's Halon, all these different extinguishers out there. People probably go to their local store and look and say, which one should I get?
The best overall extinguisher that you want to use is an ABC extinguisher. They come in several different sizes. It's the ones that you see just about everywhere that you go, and it puts out the 3 different types of fires. The A being your basic combustibles, your paper, your wood. B being the B being
The flammable
yeah,
liquids.
flammable liquids.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so that way you can kind of cover that, whether it's a candle catches papers on fire or perhaps it's your turkey fryer. There's been an incident, you can put the turkey fryer out, because what you never want to do is put water on a turkey fryer fire, because what happens is the water mixes with the oil again and you've got an even bigger fire on your hands and a more dangerous problem. So you're actually going to end up doing more damage by trying to put water on it. And that's actually one of the biggest problems we see with kitchen fires in general, is people try and put it out themselves, and instead of using an extinguisher or putting a lid on it, they use water, which then causes the fire to basically explode or expand, causing further damage than what would have been.
Okay, so they need an ABC.
Correct.
A for the standard paper, wood, combustibles. B is what they have to have that B for the oil
That
fire.
is correct.
So if you're putting out if you have a
Turkey fryer.
deep fryer and you have a fire out there, then you need to have something that says B. That's the only thing that's going to put that fire out.
Correct.
Okay, good. I think that's really important. Okay, so what's your feelings about the turkey fryer? About how long? I keep going back to the turkey fryer because I really want to try it this time. It's something that I really want to do this time. But now, what do you tell your kids and your family members about after you're done? So you cook this turkey, and now you've got this hot oil. And even for your own good, how long do you leave it before you?
It's one of those
Deal with
things
it.
that you can't just walk away and everything's fine and dandy. You still have a very hot, dangerous liquid ultimately in that pot. So again, keep the family away from it. You want to keep an eye on it. Don't just go inside and forget about it, because if the neighbors come over, the dog gets loose or something like that, they're going to knock it over. Your best bet on that is basically use your meat thermometer again. Check the temperature every once in a while, so when it gets cold. But what you want to do is you want to take it off of the actual heat element itself, put it on the ground so it's lower down. It's not getting any more heat. And then just wait for it to get cool so you can either dispose of it. And I believe actually turkey fryers, you can recycle the oil or reuse it again.
Great.
It's not just a one-time use deal. But the big thing is, you want to make sure that somebody's still watching it and it's still being treated like it's on the burner.
Okay, fair enough. And with that, now let's say that, God forbid, somebody did get hurt. Mm-hmm. So you have a child or grandma or something like that. She says, "Oh, my hand, I got burned. I was trying to reach in and take this out, and didn't take
listen
care.
and use potholders.
Yep, didn't use the potholders. Didn't do those safety steps. What should she do then?"
From that point, ultimately, you want to remove the seed of the whatever's causing the problem. So if her hand's still in the turkey fryer, since you're obsessed with it, make sure she pulls it out. Run it underwater. That first off is going to help cool everything down, and obviously call 911 if it's fairly significant. Anything that you feel that you can't handle, that deems a call to us, we'll happily come out and evaluate if it's something that we can bandage up and send you on your way versus if we need to take you. Burns can be very serious without appearing in that direction. It can seem like, oh, it's nothing, and then it turns into something fairly significant. They also become infected easily. So that's why, we'll happily come out and just evaluate it. But like I said, the most important thing is first off, run your hand under cool water, try and get your hand cooled down. And Greg, you as a paramedic, I'm sure you see a lot of these as well, where people start to think, oh, it's nothing, and then it turns out to be fairly significant.
It does, and I'm just going to tell the folks at home that one really good trick is if you do happen to burn a finger with a ring on it, make sure that jewelry is taken off, because the finger can swell and you can have real problems trying to get that piece of jewelry off. So even if it's a small, insignificant burn, it's probably going to swell.
And that's a great point, because most of the time when we are burned, it is on our hands or it is on our arms somewhere that we do have watches, bracelets, the rings, basically anything pretty.
Yep, that's exactly right. And don't be in a rush to open the oven and dive right in.
That's right.
Open the oven and stay back and let that steam come out. Let that heat come out first.
That's right.
So this time of year, I know that the smells are delicious. The turkeys, cooking, and the apple pies and pumpkin pies, and everything smells these delicious, insatiable smells. And then that kind of goes away, and you've got the few days afterwards, and now you're back to work, but you still wish to have that smell in your house, those nice smells, so people start lighting candles.
That's right.
And so what do you think about that? I mean, that's got to be part of our safety talk for the holidays.
It is, and unfortunately, candles no longer are just during the holidays. It seems to be a year-round thing where everybody loves their house to smell good. They want it to smell like Christmas trees all year long. Excuse me. Sadly, though, there's usually one house fire every 34 minutes related to candles. And that's in the nation.
I know that folks at home, they have, a lot of times will have candle lit. They'll leave it in their house. They'll leave it, near their bed type thing, and then it gets kind of like the kitchen pot, that hot pot, and the candle's left, and it starts to drip a little bit, and as it drips, then pretty soon it starts a little fire, and then the fire doubles, and it always seems to happen the same way. Then that goes from that to the drapes to the ceiling, and that's there's tons and tons of fires nationwide. In fact, there was some statistic I read, and you probably know, you say like there's a candle fire, one fire every 30 minutes.
Like I said, every 34 minutes, there's at least one house fire related to a candle. And a lot of these can be avoided by making sure that you blow out the candle when you leave the room. Something that simple. Instead of walking out and going and doing something upstairs and doing a load of laundry and you've left the one burning in the living room, well, in comes your cat or your dog or something, or even your children or spouse, whoever, who knocks the candle off, who pushes it a little closer to the drapes because they're doing something, who somehow it burns through the holder and ignites the table on fire. We've recently seen one of those in the area. So the big thing with candles is you have to remember it's an open flame just waiting for something to touch it, waiting for something to ignite. And unfortunately, too, we've seen animals being caught on fire by candles because, the cat gets on the counter and they brush up against it in their tail or their paw or something. So it's not just the fire itself, it's also something being injured by the fire.
Right, and that can't smell good either.
No.
You cannot add to the nice scent in your house.
I've never heard of kitty candles. So,
No.
So the big thing, though, is make sure that after you're done with it, before you go to bed at night, make sure that you extinguish that candle. When you leave the room, extinguish the candle. There's some great alternatives to candles. And I know that candles smell great and they're very pretty, but you also just need to be careful. You never want to put them on Christmas trees. It used to be, tradition, instead of having Christmas lights, you had candles on there. But it's just kind of waiting, it's just a fire waiting to happen, unfortunately.
Well, okay, fair enough. So watch your candles, watch your children, and watch your cooking devices at home.
Correct.
I think is kind of to wrap it up today. So we want to say that make sure that you folks enjoy yourselves, have a wonderful holiday season, enjoy the time with your family and the time to prepare these beautiful meals, but just be careful with those things as you do that preparation.
That's correct. And I'd like to remind everybody too, and I know it's the same message that we're constantly telling, but remember to test your smoke alarm. Just because it's up on the ceiling doesn't mean that it's actually working. You need to make sure that the battery or the connection is there. So, just when you're walking by or you're cleaning or you're putting up your holiday decorations, just press, the test alarm or the test button and make sure it's working, because we always remind everybody that if your smoke alarm doesn't work, it's not going to save your life.
Anne-Marie, thank you very much for coming to Fire Talk today. I really appreciate your time and your good advice.
Well, thanks, Greg. It was interesting being on the other side.
All righty.